Namaste and hi friends, it's Parvati here with Visionary Veda, bringing you your Vedic Astrology New Moon Report for this October 6th, 2021. In this report, I'm going to go over the significations of this very potent and powerful new moon, which kicks off one of the biggest celebrations in India of the year outside of Diwali, and that is the Sharad Navaratri. It is a night, 9 nights actually, where we celebrate and venerate the mother goddess in all of her forms. I am also going to go over the other planetary positions at play for this October 2021 and sort of combine an October forecast with the new moon report. So having said that, let's get started. Okay, so on October 2nd, we had two planets changing signs. Mercury kind of dipped into Libra, and on October 2nd, it's been in retrograde and has retrograded back into its sign of exaltation. We have a very strong Mercury retrograde in its own sign of Virgo. Now we also have the sun there with a pretty badly combust Mars as well. So the moon is going to join the sun, Mars, and Mercury for this new moon happening in a couple of days, happening on October 6th. On October 2nd, we also had Venus leaving its own sign of Libra and moving into the sign of Scorpio, where the graha or planet Ketu is sitting, right? Now, Ketu being the moksha karaka and Venus being the planet of wealth. In the sign of Scorpio, of secrets, has really revealed itself quite quickly with this latest news of these Pandora papers, right? So that I found was super interesting, but I'll talk about that in a bit. What else do we have going on? Yes, we have Jupiter retrograde and Saturn retrograde in Saturn's sign of Capricorn. Now Saturn is going to change direction. It's going to be stationary around October 9th, 10th, 11th, and then start heading, moving direct. And then a few days later, we will have Jupiter also stationing and moving direct. And that is happening October 16th, 17th, 18th-ish, right? 18th it moves direct. So a few days, especially with the slow-moving planets, Jupiter and Saturn, they will slow down. So it's almost like they're not even moving. And this is when they are considered to be stationary. And then they'll slowly start changing direction. Of course, they don't really stop, slow down, and change direction. It's all from our perspective here on Earth. But for the astrology's sake, this is what it looks like, and this is how we see it. So Jupiter's going to slow down and go direct on the 18th. On the same day, we have this Mercury retrograde in Virgo. And on the same day, Mercury is also going to slow down, station, and turn direct. And then we have Rahu still in a very strong sign for Rahu in Taurus. It has changed nakshatras, and really quickly the nakshatras are the fixed stars in the sky that are tied to the zodiac. This is very, very important using the Hindu or the Vedic astrology system. The nakshatras are of primary importance, and perhaps I'll do another video just talking about the nakshatras, but needless to say, Rahu is in a new nakshatra. It just moved into Kritika nakshatra. Kritika nakshatra is known as the Pleiades, and it's ruled by the sun. So this is also going to have some effect on us all and also on the mundane world. So, some of the things that I've observed already, right, with Venus moving into the sidereal sign of Scorpio. Now, this is really interesting, and I was just thinking about this a few days ago, and then this news about these Pandora papers came up. And if you haven't heard about it yet, um, it has been revealed, no surprise really, but still it's been revealed that all of these wealthy individuals and corporations have been hiding their money, like we're so surprised about that, in all these offshore accounts. And it's billions and billions of dollars that they have not paid taxes on, they're basically cheating on, and they're trying to hide from the public eye. So isn't that interesting when Venus, who rules over money, right, is in the sign of Scorpio, or secrets, and coming to conjunction. Right now it's still far away from Ketu, but it's going to meet up with Ketu and conjunct with Ketu, and all of these secrets around hidden money and financial resources are coming to light. Now, Ketu being the moksha karaka, or the significator of moksha or liberation, doesn't really do too well with Venus, which is a very materialistic significator, right? And Venus is all about money and wealth and comforts in a very insecure, unstable sign of Scorpio. So, just really quickly, I wanted to touch on this because I feel like this month we should brace ourselves for more things coming to light around wealth and money. And things might be quite unstable. Things might come to light like they just have with these Pandora papers, of corruption and cheating and things that the wealthy would like to keep secret, right? Scorpio being the sign of secrets. We can also probably, there'll probably be some changes or unpredictability in the markets, in the monetary markets as well this month. So just be aware of that. I'm not a financial advisor or a financial astrologer. I'm just seeing the indications of the planetary placements, but it is something to be aware of, because Scorpio is also across from the sign of Taurus with Rahu sitting in it, and Rahu moving into Kritika Nakshatra can show some things, some kind of deceptions happening around, right, what the leaders or those in power or those with authority are leading us to believe. Now, Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn, that's been there for a while. Jupiter is going to stay in Capricorn for the entire month of October and then move on in November, but I'll talk about that as that gets closer. And then the new moon, which is happening on the 6th of October. Now, this is a very interesting new moon. It's a very special new moon, actually. It's happening in Virgo. And Virgo is the sign of the Virgin. In the Vedic system, it's known as Kanya. Kanya is also depicted as a girl, like a prepubescent young girl. So it's a purity of an innocence energy. It's also the sign of healing. It's the sign of reaping the harvest, right? Because the Virgo, the depiction of Virgo is holding the sheets of grains. So it's also nourishment. It's also health and vitality. So all of these things are going to be highlighted during this new moon. And it's also the commencement of the Navaratri, the Sharad Navaratri, the fall Navaratri, where we celebrate the 9 nights of the goddess in her various forms, right? So, usually, yes, of course, this always happens every year with the sun and the moon. But this year we have two added elements. We have the added element of a incredibly combust Mars, as well as an exalted Mercury. And Mercury within its very strong sign of Virgo, the sign it lords, and the sign where it's at its greatest strength. Now, this is going to be happening in the Nakshatra of Hasta, Hasta Nakshatra, which is symbolized by the hands. Okay? It's also planetary rulership is the moon. So our minds, right, are going to be during this moon time, they're going to be a little bit frustrated and heavily laden. Why is that? It's because Mars is combust during this full moon. During this new moon. Now, Mars is the planet of action, of authority, the Sakaraka, or the significator of land. Okay? All of the planets have multiple significations, multiple meanings. So we can see this on one level as a sort of inner frustration instead of an outward expression of this frustration. When a planet is combust, it is in the rays of the sun. It is usually said to be going through a purification process. Now, with this dark moon, it's also a very strong time to go through kind of a physical purification and a mental and a spiritual purification process. Mars is determination, anger, logic, land, all of these significations, right? It's depicted as the general of the army or the head of the army. It's all about, traditionally, right? It's all about war. So when this is being purified, we start to question and we start to look at the things that irritate us, the things that we get angry about, the people who frustrate us or maybe evoke anger within us, the situations that are happening on the outside which irritate or anger us. This is a great opportunity to look inward. It's the new moon. So the moon is dark. The combust Mars, usually Mars is a very outward planet. So the combust Mars has us looking on the inside, on the internal, to see, to examine, to take ownership of these fiery energies, right? This can show up in many ways. It can show up as inflammation or any kind of health issues having to do with too much fire, too much Agni, because you have the sun and Mars together. Virgo being the sign of health and purity, right? So if our anger isn't being dealt with or looked at or reckoned with internally, it can cause a lot of health issues. Since Virgo is the sign of health, purity, service, if we can listen and examine where these sort of frustrations may be internally, then we can actually get the insight as to what we need to do to heal them. And the healing is, of course, the acceptance, right? The acceptance of the things that we can't change, and the actual karmic doing the work, Hasta Nakshatra, which is the hands, the digging, the plowing, the harvesting, the reaping that we can do for the mind so that we feel more at peace internally. That purification process of all the outward things that may be causing us irritation at this point in time can be brought into a balance. And why is that? Because we have the sun and the moon together. We have the solar and the lunar channels coming into sync with each other. We also have an exalted Mercury. And just like the sign of Virgo or Kanya is a prepubescent girl, right? Mercury exalted in Kanya because Mercury is also like a prince, the prepubescent boy. If you look at the two signs that Mercury rules, one is Gemini and the other is Kanya or Virgo. In Gemini, you have the twins, the man and the woman, right? They're also seen to be young and full of energy. And again, Kanya, Virgo, we see the young virgin or the young girl symbolizing her innocence, her purity, her healing capabilities, right? So this Mercury is going to lend its energy because it's at its highest, it's at its most exalted. And for those of us who are introspective, we can see, we're going to be able to see where and what needs purification, right? Just like Mars is being combust right now. Usually people say, oh, a combust Mars, there's going to be a lot of agitation, there's going to be a lot of aggravation, and there is, but it's not strong outwardly. It can be used inwardly without being hard on ourselves, right? But to examine what is irritating us and why. It's a huge potential for healing on this new moon. It's also the beginning of Sharad Navaratri. So usually when in the Hindu calendar, in the Vedic calendar, when we have these big festivals, like the celebration of the 9 nights of the goddess, like Diwali, like Ganesh Chaturthi, or Mahashivaratri, or any of these sorts of really potent festivals, Ram Navami, it happens when the planetary energies are not necessarily at their strongest, okay? And this is when we turn from ourselves to the divine. And we use our hands, we do our karmic work in order to do what we can to meet the divine, but ultimately we surrender and we worship and we venerate the gods and the goddesses because they're the higher aspects of ourselves that we want to embody, we want to emulate, and we want to reach. In my culture, where I'm from in India, in Gujarat, we have the Navaratri celebration. Wow, it's my favorite festival of all the festivals, where all the women get dressed up like goddesses in our finest gear, in the chanya cholis. Oh, they're gorgeous with all of our beautiful jewelry and clothes, and we all dance around the altar of the goddess, and we lose ourselves in this dance. It's a beautiful way to celebrate the goddess and come out of our own egos, and transcend for 9 nights this mundane egoic self. So yes, it's a beautiful time. I'm wishing everybody a gorgeous new moon. Beware, though. Beware of these energies of this combust Mars, right? Because this combust Mars can make you sort of hard on yourself for not being perfect like this goddess, right? Like the goddess that's the epitome of all perfection and all powers. The thing is that we all embody these qualities of the goddess. And it's not, it's those frustrations that are actually getting in the way of fully stepping into the embodiment of Shakti, or the embodiment of these divine qualities that's in every one of us. So let's use this time, this purification time, this dark moon time, to be honest with ourselves, be loving with ourselves. Look at where we need the healing, Virgo. Use our hands, Hasta Nakshatra, so that mentally and emotionally we feel like we are contributing and working towards that purification and that refinement of our being. So that is going to do it for me and my report for October, as well as this new moon happening in Hasta Nakshatra on the 6th of October, commencing the Sharad Navaratri, or the celebration of the 9 nights of the goddess. I wish you all a divine time and a divine festival season. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, or queries, please put them in the comment section below. And if you would like a reading with me, feel free to reach me on my email address, visionaryveda@gmail.com. And I will see you next time. As always, enjoy the life and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.